Chicago. Before I get into the history and the lovely story behind the warehouse, quick note of thanks to our partners. First, Lockheed, provider of insurance for several of our startups. We've had nothing but great experiences with them. And so, round of applause for Lockheed. DLA, law firm that we use extensively for our startups, and they're also a partner of ours. And you know, I don't know if Ricky's here tonight, but he's been an awesome partner for the founders that are here. They can attest to the fact that he really is a true partner. So a round of applause for DLA. Also to EMSI, payroll and HR provider. They've been working with, I think, roughly 50% of our portfolio. And I know that most people are extremely happy with that, and they're also partners. So a round of applause for EMSI. It's the most enthusiastic response we can get for an HR. And finally, last but not least, Miller Cooper, who's been providing amazing tax advice for our startups as well as Lightbank. Ignacio, a round of applause. That's genuine applause for a tax guy, right? So the story, I will tell you that between Brad, Eric, and I, we debated the opening of the warehouse and our thoughts on building community. And so, you know, for the past 3 years, I think the way we thought about community was ultimately, instead of being cheerleaders and cheering on Chicago per se, let's just build great companies. And with the exits and the successes out of that, you know, companies like Groupon, companies like Braintree, that the community itself has developed. I think what's happened over the last couple of years, which has been really interesting, is that we've seen the ecosystem start to build on itself. And so from our perspective, whereas 3 years ago, I would say that we weren't in the business of cheerleading and cheering on Chicago's community, the ecosystem itself has gotten to a point where we actually think it warrants that. And so, you know, if you look at our early stage pipeline of companies who typically got involved, we're seeing really interesting companies being formed, whether we invested or not, starting to be formed, and founders really taking a proactive mentality around growing real businesses. So, you know, from that perspective, I think our attitude around this has shifted a bit. And I think, selfishly speaking, from Lightbank's perspective, what we realized was the ecosystem was in a very different place than when we first started doing this. So really, that got us thinking about the warehouse. And part of that is, you know, if you think about Lightbank and the history of Lightbank, you have, you know, companies like Deli, Sprout Social, Snapsheet, VentureCraft, Buddha, Babaco. In the past 2.5 years, collectively, these companies have gone on to raise $60 million in venture capital. And that's not to say that's a mild. One round of applause for those companies. And that's not to say that fundraising in of itself is a goal, but that's been the platform for these companies to extend beyond a bootstrap startup and start growing into larger scale businesses. So what we saw was, look, one, you know, our time and our efforts are somewhat scalable, but it's somewhat difficult to kind of extend that beyond the companies that we're invested in. So we wanted to make a proactive effort to kind of take the best of those things. And in our mind, that really was the environment. That was the hallway conversations, the off-chance meeting that we have with a founder or investor in an unplanned week. We would bump someone in the hallway and say, hey, how are things going? And somebody has a genuine response. So, you know, what we wanted to do was, can we extract those things and apply those benefits to a broader community? And that really got us thinking about the start of the warehouse. So, you know, in 600 West, we have 3 public companies, along with, I think, we're up to 16 portfolio companies now here that have various levels of venture funding. But what we wanted to do was extract those benefits and apply it to other founders who are really interested in building new businesses. So, you know, what I will say is, one, it's not easy to get into the warehouse. I mean, there is an application process, and our deal team looks at it, not necessarily from a pure investment perspective, but I think the litmus test really is, are founders serious about building a business? Are they serious? And are they committed to building something? And so, you know, we're going to present a handful of companies that, for the 4 that are presenting tonight, we're not investors, to be clear, but we think the world of the founders, and we think they've done an amazing job of getting to where they are. So before we get to them, just quick, you know, overview. At the warehouse, it is an application process, but if you do get in, you're subject to, one, subsidized rent. It's going to be below market. Two, you're going to get access to monthly events. We don't really publicize it, but we have drinking events like this pretty much every other day. So you can take advantage of that. I'll be kidding about that. But myself, Brad, Eric will host office hours. Head of our PR group, Khalid, will host office hours. Amy Swalina, who's our lead recruiter, will be working with the tenants as well, so feedback and advice. And then Mike, who heads up our finance operation, will be able to provide some feedback as well. So what we really want to do is, for us, this is investing in the ecosystem and giving back a bit for the success of the community. And so we hope you guys look at that and look at the warehouse as a resource for that community. Special note of thanks to Catherine Spook. Blew this thing out from nothing. And so, note of thanks to Catherine. So with that, let me hand it over to our first company who's going to come up here and present. Private Care.